In medieval Europe, committing a crime didn't require being human. If you were an animal, you could still be arrested, you could still be put on trial, and you could still be executed. This wasn't folklore, this wasn't satire, this was the legal system. From roughly the 13th through the 17th centuries, courts across Europe regularly tried animals for crimes. Pigs, cows, horses, goats, rats, insects, even insects were formally accused, prosecuted, and sentenced. And these trials were not symbolic. They followed legal procedure, judges presided, charges were read aloud, and witnesses testified, and sentences were carried out, sometimes publicly. The most common defendants were pigs. Medieval towns allowed pigs to roam freely through the streets, scavenging for food. They were everywhere, and occasionally one would injure or kill a child. When that happened, the pig wasn't just slaughtered, it was arrested. Records describe pigs being locked in jail cells, fed rations, and guarded while awaiting trial. They were brought before the court, sometimes dressed in human clothing, to face charges like murder or assault. If found guilty, the punishment matched the crime. The pig might be hanged, burned, or buried alive. In at least one recorded case, a pig was executed by hanging in front of a crowd, just like a human criminal. And it didn't stop with pigs. In 1474, in Basel, Switzerland, a rooster was put on trial for laying an egg. That may sound absurd, but at the time, it was deadly serious. Roosters were not supposed to lay eggs, and an egg laid by a rooster was believed to be capable of hatching a basilisk, a mythical creature said to bring death with its gaze. The rooster was arrested. Witnesses testified. The court ruled the rooster guilty of a crime against nature. It was burned alive. Animals weren't the only ones tried. Entire species were summoned to court. Insects, rodents, and pests were accused of destroying crops and threatening livelihoods. In these cases, the animals were often tried in ecclesiastical courts, overseen by the church. Lawyers were appointed to represent the animals. Yes, defense attorneys. Some even argued passionately on their behalf. One famous case involved rats accused of destroying barley crops. Their lawyer argued that the rats could not attend court because the journey was dangerous, filled with cats. The court accepted this argument and postponed proceedings. Eventually, the rats were excommunicated. Why would anyone do this? Why would an entire society put animals on trial? Because medieval justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about restoring order. People believed the universe was governed by divine law. If a crime occurred, especially one involving death, it disrupted the balance between heaven, earth, and society. Justice had to be seen, even if the criminal didn't understand it. Executing an animal publicly sent a message. Order had been restored. God had been acknowledged. Chaos had been contained. It reassured people that the world still made sense. But there's something darker beneath it all. These trials weren't about animals. They were about fear. Fear of randomness. Fear of nature. Fear that suffering could happen without reason. By putting animals on trial, people imposed meaning on tragedy. They turned accidents into crimes, and crimes into something they could control, even if the logic made no sense. Eventually, animal trials faded away. As science advanced and legal systems modernized, the idea of prosecuting animals became embarrassing rather than comforting. By the 18th century, the practice had mostly disappeared. But for hundreds of years, it was normal, expected, legal, and that's what makes it unsettling. Not that people once believed animals could commit crimes, but that entire societies agreed on it. Judges, lawyers, crowds, all standing in silence as a pig was sentenced to death. History doesn't just show us what people did, it shows us how they thought. And sometimes that's the strangest part of all. This wasn't madness, this was justice, and it belongs in WTF History.